We are live. I think
We are
we're
live.
live.
Well, kind of live. Audience, we're actually recording this on
Right.
Thursday afternoon. I have to go out of town for my daughter's dance, and you're going to.
And I have to go out of town for my daughter's dance, which
Yes.
is not a prerequisite for this role, by the way.
It is not. So, unfortunately, for this Friday, the 26th, we are both doing parent stuff.
Right.
For dance. So we're recording this at it's 3:47 p.m. on Thursday, so it's still kind of up to the minute. You're not going to, all the links will be should be pre-populated by the time you guys see this, as when it goes live at 12. Anyway, housekeeping.
Yeah. I know this would have been a really good week to get live engagement, because we would like to, start off talking a little bit about the week we had last week, since we didn't air an episode because of IX North America. So it would have been great to get tell us your thoughts and get all that live stuff coming in at us. But so sorry, we cannot do that.
We cannot. And there was a lot. I'll tell you, from a curation standpoint, we had 2 weeks worth of content, and there was a lot of stuff flowing this past 2 weeks that we are condensing into exactly less than 30 minutes to accommodate a recording on LinkedIn.
That was a very qualitative thing to say, by the way. Exactly less than 30.
Exactly. Yes.
So, my kind of math right there.
I'm learning. I thought I started this as a quant guy, and I think I've discovered my inner quality over the years. So
anyway, but back to North America, because I know you have some feedback, and for anybody who was not there, and you haven't been, checking the hashtags, there are some really good recaps out there. The one that I really want to point out, the Logic Group, who was our title sponsor, Claire Harrigan was interviewing people on their green carpet, and they are posting these sort of short form videos. I mean, she talked to Priscilla McKinney, Margaret Chapman, Josh Cormie, Jamin Brazil. Those are the ones that have gone live. I don't know who else she's talked to, because I wasn't there the whole time with her. So just go to the LinkedIn page. We have that link that we'll be sharing, and just look at some of those videos of people's on-site takeaways. Pretty cool.
Absolutely. And I think there's a few more of those coming as well. A few vendors did recordings, leveraging their AI tools for automatic analysis on site. And they've reached out. We'll probably have some more stuff that we'll share. And not just about, how cool IEX is, but actually, other topics as well. But
the takeaways, right? So, Christian Aloma from Threadline wrote his recap of his top themes. We had Peter Cloutier from Behaviorally shared their top themes. There's plenty of that. So yeah, there were some top themes. So
absolutely. And let me my takeaway, because I've spent all week now talking to everybody. Last week it was so nice that everybody was at IEX, so I got a lot of work done. This week I've been talking about IEX. But there's a cool summary that occurred to me earlier. Think about this time last year, it was kind of, oh crap, right? There's high engagement because we saw this sudden new thing, or at least it appeared sudden new thing, right, of AI. This year, it seems like the takeaway was a lot of folks were there to learn, not about hypotheticals, but about real use cases. And there was a ton of that. You did an amazing job of curating that content and ensuring that we had, okay, here's how things are happening. Here's what people are doing. Here's the impact that it's having on the business. And we had tons of sessions like that. And I think people were there to learn about that, which will accelerate the pace of adoption as we go forward from here. And we're still kind of wrapping our heads around this converging data sets around, feedback from the event, grit, conversations, anecdotal conversations. What an exciting and amazing time. And it all kind of culminated at the event in many ways. And we'll have more to share as things go forward from our own thought leadership on where things are going. But the stuff that you and I have been talking about for what is this, episode 38, for the last 38 weeks? All of that, we saw that in real life manifesting and playing out at IEX, and it feels like now we're moving forward into a whole new phase, which will be interesting.
100%. And the competition finalists this year, the Inside Innovation competition this year, the finalists were all like, oh, cool. You could see them, folding this new technology into their new offerings. And that was pretty cool to see too. Talk about use cases, right? For the most part, there was some great use cases being shared for this emergent technology that manifest in that competition. So it was a really good one this year. It was the best one I've seen, and there have been some good ones.
Yeah. I mean, I know you and I talked about this in the podcast as well. I'm glad that I was not a judge, because they were all fantastic. Shout out to our winner, Listen Lab. Just
for our listeners, on Friday we recorded an episode of the podcast that should come out next Monday. Okay. So that's the point. We pre-recorded Monday's podcast, and we're the exchange is tomorrow. So anyway, you'll still hear the North America recap. Go ahead. Yay, Listen Labs. Yes.
Yes. Congrats. I also heard that they were amazingly effective marketers at the event. So a lesson there, not just on the application.
I mean, it's a simple name, Listen Labs, but they walked around in green lab coats. And so they looked like scientists. They had this, and it was a very simple visual cue that they are smart. And I mean, they are smart. That's a well-educated group of individuals.
Yeah.
They are smart, but they also were like, let's appear smart right on site for the conversations they were having. Anyway, yeah, no, they had the right stuff. So yeah, tune into Monday's podcast, because that episode, when we push that out, because it explains why we believe they won.
Absolutely. So. And let's jump ahead for a minute, since we're talking about the competition. The news. Shout out to past competition winners. Riwi, which they won the competition at the first IX in Philadelphia. So whatever that was, it all blurs together, right? But and then Cool Tool, who won the competition a few years ago with their UX Reality. I think it was in Europe that they won. Anyway, announced yesterday that Riri acquired Cool Tool. Yeah. So that's a first, right? I mean, we kind of think of it, this is our family, right? These companies that have won over the years through the competition. We have a special place in our heart for all of them. And it's the first time that we've seen a competition winner acquire another competition winner. So so very cool. Shout out to our friends at Riri and Cool Tool on that successful merger. Full disclosure, it's public. I am on the board of Riri. So I did know this was coming. But it's a really cool thing. So.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, no, I love that too. And I just think that even the the finalists that did not win, they came up to talk to me about it afterwards and say, is there anything they could have done better? And I was like, you have a very strong offering. Like
there's just no losers.
No losers. Like, let's just focus on that, because this is a good thing. You all got great visibility to a pretty cool offering. So good stuff all around. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk, I know we want to talk about the I just really wanted to stick with kind of investment activity, since we were just talking about the Riwi and Cool Tool thing, but I think I don't know TestSet. But I think it's really timely that we're talking about ACKWEST, and now we're seeing, so ACKWEST has invested in TestSet in Europe, and here we go. Remember, we talked about in the last few weeks how they are to be taken seriously as people who understand what's happening in the data quality space and the importance of it, and they are now going to be putting money behind it. So I think we should be watching out for this company.
Absolutely right. It's the Hugh and Keith. So Hugh Davis, Keith Price. We talked about them weeks ago, as you said, reminisced about the role of these two guys, and they are. I think this was the first deal publicly, and TestSet, known for providing uncorrupted, unbiased, human verified insight data, quality play.
Yeah.
So
quality play, and that's what we expect of them. That's why they're getting into this game, and that is what they're gonna put money behind. Human verified insights data. Anyway, we'll be watching them. So I'm excited to learn more about that company as they move forward. So that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah, and International Left, that is a European company.
Yeah.
So ACKWEST is playing internationally, not just here in the US. So
yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Speaking of internationally, we did not mention that we have our next event. We moved right off of that, IIEX Europe at the end of June. So,
I'm sorry, my fault.
right? No, we just both moved on. But IIEX Europe, that 20% code called the not the exchange. If you use the code exchange, you get 25% off on our IEX Europe event. So yeah, let's talk data quality in Europe at the end of June and see what's happening overseas.
Absolutely. And I know for a fact, because we just talked about that, there is a really cool presentation that's going to be there. So on this research on this issue, which is really cool. So yeah, it'll be we know it's at least one presentation about it.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. Oh, the agenda's about done. It's looking good. It's looking good. And that's on the heels of North America, which again was pretty good. Now I'm really, quite excited to see what we're bringing to the stage in Europe. Anyway, but we digress. Let's move back to the other topics at hand.
Well, let's talk about this FTC ban. So we can talk about the other thing we had in investments in like AI.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. But what I want to do, like the facilitator in me or the presenter in me wants to say, who here has ever had to sign a non-compete agreement? Like, raise your hand, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where you're like, well, I have to sign a non-compete. That's just going to change my exit strategy.
Yes.
Maybe not anymore.
Well, at least for the moment. So if those who are not following the news, we'll have a link. It's a Wall Street Journal report. The FTC has banned non-compete agreements that restrict job switching here in the U.S. A lawsuit challenging it has already been filed. So let's not get too excited for the moment. Although right now, if you're thinking about switching jobs, right now,
might have a window.
Like maybe the next, you got maybe a couple months.
My gosh,
now's a real good time. Companies, everybody, this applies to everybody. If you want to poach somebody, now's the time to do it.
Well, or
jobs, now's the time to do it.
Let's reframe it. If you want to keep somebody,
let's do
that. So let's stop thinking about the poachers and just say, let's get ahead of people who want to leave this company and focus on keeping good people at your organization so that the non-compete is a non-issue, right? I remember, look, I'll date myself a bit. When I was leaving one of the qualitative firms I worked for to start my own business, I was so transparent and said, I do not want to take clients because that is not how I want to start off my own business. I am not going to start my own practice doing that. I would rather pay my dues and work hard to secure clients that I earned all on my own and not on, on the wings of my previous employer who trained me and helped raise me up, right? That just wasn't what I was going to do. That's what, patting myself on the back, that's what good ethics are, right? And integrity. And let's work a little more towards that instead of, this other feeling of, oh, I don't trust you before you've even started working for us.
Right.
No, right? Let's put the pressure on them, the employee.
Good person.
Yeah.
And all of that said, and I will still go back to my mercenary tendencies. If you're going to switch, or you want to now it's time to do it. You got a real narrow limit. This won't last. This will not last.
For sure.
It's just everything you said is true, regardless of what happens with that. And I 100% agree with you. I despise non-competes. I think it's just a crappy way to do business because it does send the wrong message.
Well, it's a prenup. It's it's the same kind of analogy, which is we're going into this thinking about when it ends instead of just the assumption that it might not. Instead of the assumption that it will be a great relationship for as long as both parties can put into it. So I think that's why it really irks me quite a bit because it's not giving So anyway, I'd love to see these go away because I think it's not helpful to anybody.
I agree, but more than likely it's going to be challenged. And what'll be, I'll tell you, it is, let's talk about this for a second. It's interesting. What's going to be challenged on is the FTC does not have the authority to do this. Sure. That's what it's going to be challenged on.
Yeah.
The Congress in the U.S. has not granted them the authority to make a rule like this, a rule change.
Right.
not a real change, a proclamation, because there's not a rule that exists. It's private business.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. It's a big, thorny kind of, like all things nowadays are, kind of a constitutional and separation of powers and checks and balances.
Yeah.
Beyond my pay grade, right? But I suspect it will get traction, and then the states will do what the states do, one way or the other. So, but at least the topic has been broached, and I think that's a good thing. To your point, maybe we'll see a change overall where companies just start shifting how they do this and focus on retention versus prevention.
Right. Exactly. So see, you like my rose-colored glasses. They suit you well.
I do. It matches my cheeks.
Yes,
So
exactly.
the
My gosh, so funny.
all right. We're trying to stay on task in time.
Well, yeah, I just think that the only other partnership that we wanted to talk about before we move on to all things AI, because quite frankly, let's give it a pause because it's also AI related. But this Coca-Cola Microsoft 5-year partnership is really interesting. So they've announced a collaboration focusing on cloud and AI technologies driving innovation and efficiency between Microsoft and Coca-Cola. So a very bold statement from a brand that we all watch and pay attention to. Big brand saying, "Yep, we are partnering with Microsoft to make sure AI is part of our ecosystem." I think that's a big deal.
It is, and I'll tell you, I heard something just today that was similar. Maybe with this of one of the largest CPG companies in the world partnered with Microsoft to build their own LLM. I expect that's what this has to do with. So it is. It's a segue, right? We know there's some resistance. Some brands still have concerns about privacy and security, et cetera, of their data within, feeding into the big LLMs, right? And rightfully so. I would absolutely expect Coke is probably thinking about that of like, we're sitting on a whole bunch of data, but we don't want our competitors to get access to our data because it's fed into your LLM.
Right.
So the genesis of these type partnerships is to one, they will probably develop their own custom solutions that sit inside their organization. That we'll see many such instances of that. As if Microsoft's doing it, we'll see. Google will do it, and OpenAI, and everybody, it'll be whoever wins that fight. But Microsoft definitely has an edge because they are already an enterprise partner,
right,
for most of these companies. I would argue AWS would as well because of their hosting. That they Amazon because of hosting. So it'll be interesting to see this happen. You're right. But follow the money, right? That the money's flowing there. They see the benefit. Coke shifted years ago towards an analytically focused solution. Many people probably in our audience lived through the great bloodletting where they just kind of reorged everything within the insight space and focused on what they thought of as their data machine and poured everything into that. AI unlocks the promise of what they were trying to build for years already. So,
and I mean, if you're at a company that's not quite to the size and scope of Coke or any of the other big, CPG behemoths out there, you might want to be talking to procurement and say, we're going to have to get over these hurdles because,
we are. I've been very public about my reticence to utilize AI personally. And I used Copilot this week. So there is no resistance is futile, my friends. So, right, I needed to get a presentation done, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and I could spend 5 hours to do it, or I could do it in about 20 minutes, and I chose to do it in about 20 minutes. And, and that's a super high level use case, but it worked. So
there you go. I know. It doesn't mean you were lazy. It means you were efficiently using your time.
It's meant I was really damn tired is what it meant. But for that particular case, but yes. All right. We got a few more minutes. We got a bunch more to get through.
We
So
do. So let me just say, because there's, we want to get to some innovations, but there are also two solid reports that came out in the last 2 weeks that we'll share the links. We don't have to dig into them, but the Stanford HAI release 2024 version of their AI index report, we'll share that link. That I remember when that came out last year, we had somebody who was talking about it at our AI event last September. So that report is out, and actually I haven't downloaded it yet, but it will be good to look at that report in the context of what was said last year and kind of start to track that trend, because that one's going to be pretty cool. I don't know about the MRII report. I don't know if you know anything about that one.
I did. So MRI, the market research. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to butcher it.
International Institute.
Yes, fantastic friends of ours. They focus on education, et cetera, et cetera. They do tons of great work. They released a report. They did a study on AI in focus. Market researchers weigh in on AI's workplace impact for today and tomorrow. And it's a great report. The results they dovetail exactly with on the overall pieces that we've got in Grit that's coming up as well on usage and attitudes, but it went deeper. It went deeper, and they looked at kind of differences in segments, et cetera, et cetera. Definitely worth downloading. You'll find yourself in that report one way or the other. So good stuff.
We like that. We like finding ourselves in the reports.
We do.
We do. We do. All right. Tell me about Street Bees. I don't know Street Bees. I think you found this one too. Look at you looking like that.
Yeah. Street Bees, they're out of the UK, I believe, built basically a large ethnographic panel for all intents and purposes. Sorry guys, I know you probably don't like that language, Street Bees team, but fundamentally you got a whole bunch of people who do cool stuff, right? For research, and integrating photo and video capture with AI analysis. That's what, yes, of course, that's what you should be doing, right? So, and I don't mean that to be dismissive of what they did. That's understand this is just where things are going. It's quickly becoming table stakes. And Street Bees is another example of a company that has done really cool stuff, leaning into the efficiencies that these solutions, these technologies give to their customers, and creating more value for that. So, yep.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
All right. I don't use Apple, so you talk about this next one.
No, it's just an article came out. Well, actually more than one. Once we might see one, and then there's, when it comes to big tech like Apple, then there's going to be a dozen of them. So you could probably just also Google this, but Apple is getting into the AI model game. And they're talking about how AI is going to come to our phones. The introduction of an open AI model. It says, this says open ELM, but it must be, is ELM different from LL large language model? What's an ELM?
I am not sure.
Right. We'll have to look into that, but it's this idea that we're going to get, AI functionality built into our phones. So just start to imagine what that's going to be like. But if anything can make it mainstream usage, it's going to be your iPhone, right? For the millions of users. I mean, everything that this phone has done to help me, start doing things that I never thought I'd do before, whether it's, again, not a gamer, phone gamer, not really doing social media at my desk, definitely doing social media on my phone. So my phone changes my behavior by the very nature that it's always with me. And, and now, Apple's going to be integrating this technology into it somehow. So stay tuned. That'll be a really interesting, when they do those updates about the new products coming out, this one's going to be fascinating the next time that happens, once we start talking about this.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be Siri on steroids, right? Here's, I don't know what ELM is, but I do know what a specific element of this. The difference is that this will, almost all AI solutions operate in the cloud. This is engineered to operate on the device.
Yeah.
So it'll be powered by the phone. Everything will be driven within the phone.
Yeah.
I know we're short on time, but something occurred to me earlier. We're talking about this conversation about one thing that drove the growth of AI versus any other technology is that we had the infrastructure to support it already in place. Think about it, from the internet to wireless, et cetera. So we had to build the infrastructure, right? We had to build networks. We had to build technology and servers and all that good stuff. AI wasn't that way. We already had all of that. All of it was already existing. All
Yeah.
we have to do now is optimize the components for speed and processing power. Hence why NVIDIA has exploded, right? And other chip manufacturers. So keep that in mind, naysayers. You
Yeah.
know, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're just wrong.
Yeah.
These technologies use cases we can debate about, right?
Yeah.
But the core technology being integrated into things like devices like the iPhone,
Yeah.
it's here because it's easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be helpful. Like once people start to adopt, it's going to be helpful. I mean, I think there's another, news story about, Meta and their large language model. And, that's going to be coming to a social media platform near you. We've seen it. Some of us have seen it in LinkedIn, their new AI functionality. Like this is going to be integrated into more and more of the, sites that we come to rely on just daily as individuals. Yep. And I think that if that isn't telling that some of these large organizations are using it in things that we are going to become users of, whether we wanted to or not.
Yep.
Right.
And back to the device, right? So now, because Meta, they decided not to build a phone.
Yeah.
But they built Ray-Ban, part of Ray-Bans.
Yep.
Glasses. And all have multimodal AI, and that specifically has implications for research, right? So think about ethnography, shop-alongs, more and more of that. My belief is that research will ask fewer questions, but those questions are going to be a hell of a lot more meaningful. And those questions are going to be about people's human experience. And so the era of wearables from a research standpoint like that become no-brainer. So if you do ethnography, if you own a sensory testing facility, I'd be getting some of these Meta Ray-Bans and starting to experiment.
Yeah, I definitely would experiment with these. I sure wish that I can get hooked up. I should, because I like me a good pair of Ray-Bans actually. So, put a little AI in them and I'm down.
I mean, I'd have to get prescription for me. That was, I will share this and we'll end on this. I want you guys to picture this, right? I've worn glasses since I was 8 years old. Then I bought glass. Oh God, experiment with glass. I'll get contacts. I wore contacts once. I bought the contacts so I could use glass. I put them in once. I got an eye infection and never wore them again. And therefore never used glass again. Right. So there's pictures floating out there somewhere of me wearing glass, like, oh, look at me. But it didn't work. But a cool pair of Ray-Bans, it'd be a hell of a lot easier, I'm sure, to put my prescription lenses into Ray-Bans and use that product.
Yeah, so sweet. All around pretty sweet. So anyway, we really do have to wrap, friends. Since we are pre-recording, we have a very finite amount of time. So remember, it was going to be exactly less than 30 minutes.
We are exactly less than 30 minutes.
So that's a wrap. That's a wrap. We're all set for today. We will see you next week. I will be on the road. I'm heading to Salt Lake City for the Qualtrics event. So next Friday, I'll be debriefing that a little bit with y'all too, Lenny. And that should be different.
It will. It'll be fun. And you got to tell us about your experience meeting the Backstreet Boys. So
I know. I don't think I'll meet them. I didn't meet the Killers last year, but I did get into the VIP seating. So there's that.
I'd rather meet the Killers than the Backstreet Boys, but whatever.
It's great fun. They put on a good show. I mean, the whole event is nothing like any other industry event I've ever been to with 10,000 attendees. So anyway, enough about that. That's next week.
Thanks. All right, everybody, take care.